Hey, what's up everybody? I'm out at my campsite one. Came out for the night and I'm actually going to try out a new stove that I got. It's a stove by a company called Etekcity. I guess that's how you say it. It's not a small stove, as you can see. It's not a light stove. But I actually got this for kayak camping. It's considered a windproof stove, which whenever I go kayak camping I always have to bring a windscreen with me. Which is just another piece of gear, but this way it's all in one. It looked pretty neat. You hook your gas bottle straight up to this, keep it away from the burner. If you notice, this right here is the little windscreen, and it can be adjusted to go all the way out where any pot or pan or anything you have will rest right here on these little braces. And then you can adjust this up depending on what kind of pot or pan you have, where it'll meet the outside edge to keep any kind of wind from coming in and hitting the bottom of it. So let's fire this guy up and check it out. Another thing too is it's got some legs on the bottom of it which you can use, which will give it a little bit more stability. I haven't used this yet. I've never even fired it up, so we'll give it a shot and we'll see how it works. So for my own convenience, I'm going to be using it up on top of this stump that I have here, this log. I'll go ahead and hook up the gas bottle. This right here is the valve that opens and closes to adjust how much gas is actually coming through to the burner. So you want to make sure it's closed all the way before attaching your gas bottle. Okay, so on this stove you'll notice right here there is an actual little starter, which you got your button down here. I'm not sure if you can see the arc. A lot of the ones that I've bought in the past, that part doesn't actually work. So let's go ahead and fire this guy up. So I can tell you right off the bat, this thing works a lot better than that little pocket stove that I've been using for years. It gives off a lot more heat. So let's get a pot on this and let's give it a shot. I've got my Stanley pot. I've got 2 cups of water in here because I'm going to be making a mountain house meal. So let's set this guy on here. We'll go ahead and adjust this up. Keep any wind from hitting it. Put a lid on top. Right, so I decided that I'm going to time this. So we will see how long this actually takes to get it to boil. Alright, so we got ourselves a boil. Yeah, we'll say about 3.5 minutes. Yep, now we got a rolling boil. Go ahead and shut that guy off. Yep, so about 3.5 minutes for a boil on this. Not bad. Not bad at all, actually. Well, my first impression of this stove is pretty favorable, actually. I like it. It's easy to use. It's definitely not a ultralight backpacker stove or anything like that, but it definitely worked really well. I like the design. I think it looks really neat. It's something different. And yeah, 3.5 minutes to get a pot of boiling water, and I had 2 cups of water in here too. I think that's pretty good, and the reason I bought this for kayak camping is a lot of the camping I have a tendency to find myself in when I go kayaking is in open areas, not necessarily like this where you're in a more confined space with a lot of less crosswind and stuff like that. Usually when you're kayak camping you find yourself in areas where there's a lot of wind, and I have a windscreen that I bring with me that doesn't always cooperate, doesn't always stand upright, and just doesn't offer the same quality of wind protection as something like this, where the wind is stopped at the actual pot versus going around the entire stove itself. So I'm happy with this. I think it was a good buy. So I'm just gotta wait for my mountain house, about 8 or 9 minutes or so, and wait for this guy to cool down before I can pack it away. But yeah, it kind of looks like a little lunar lander or something. I think it's kind of neat. Tomorrow morning after I get up and make breakfast, I'm going to be washing my pots and my pans and everything that I brought with me. I had some people ask me for a follow-up to some comments I made in one of my last videos about um, hygiene and things like that when you're out in the woods and keeping clean and keeping your pots and pans clean, especially to keep from getting any kind of foodborne illness or anything like that due to not cleaning the pots after you cook in them. So I did bring a solution to that, and I'll show you guys that tomorrow morning. But yeah, it does come with a nifty little bag. And there was another nozzle too that came with it. There was a replacement one for a different kind of gas canister because they're not all fitted like this. So there's that. There's nothing like adding some rehydrated fruit to oatmeal in the morning. I've got some blackberries and some blueberries in here. So after you finish your meal and you want to get everything cleaned up, you want to get all your dishes washed and things like that, if you're not just going to go ahead and pack up and hike out. One of the things that I use is a kitchen sink, and this is one by Sea to Summit. I'm not trying to advertise a brand or anything like that. I'm just showing you guys what I use. It's a 10-liter kitchen sink. Comes in a little pouch, and I've actually got a little scrub brush in here, which is just a standard kitchen pad that I've cut down, and some biodegradable camp soap. I could obviously get a much smaller container. This is just the one that I grabbed, but this stuff is pretty good. Now, even though this is biodegradable, my understanding is you don't want to use this or pour this out within about 100 feet from a waterway. That way when it sinks through the ground, the water that contains this will be able to filter it out before it goes down into the water table. So I don't know necessarily how bad this would be to use actually in a stream. This is just what I've read, and it makes sense to me. It seems pretty logical, so I try not to use this right next to a stream. I try to respect that boundary. But the kitchen sink. So it's a simple enough idea. All it is a bag, basically. It's got a wire in the rim that kind of helps hold its shape. It does have two handles on it. This is great for carrying water. If you don't have anything like a dromedary bag or a camelback or something like that, and you need to bring water to camp, this is it's a pretty nice solution for that. But what I would do, get my dirty dishes out of the way. So you can obviously heat your water up a little bit if you want to. I'm not going to this morning, but there we go. As you can see, it holds its shape pretty good. And then you just use your biodegradable soap, washed out your dishes. Now there are other bags that you can buy that are smaller if you're concerned about weight or pack size, but one of the things I like about this one is because it's so big, I can wash any and all pots that I'm going to be bringing are going to be the right size to fit into this particular kitchen sink. Another nice thing about this biodegradable camp soap is if you have a little bit of soap left on your dish, if it's not rinsed perfectly, like you'd probably do at home, it doesn't leave that soapy taste. You just need to make sure that you can kind of dry it as best you can. I always bring with me a microfiber towel so that I can wipe things down, which is a pretty good solution to that. Now, I generally won't bring my kitchen sink on an overnight. I'll only bring it if I'm going to be camping for a couple days. That way I can get everything washed and I don't have to worry about getting sick. You know, keeping everything clean is pretty essential. Hand sanitizer is another great thing to have for camping when you can't actively wash your hands a lot. Now you got everything cleaned, washed, ready to go. If you're not going to be leaving the campsite, I always suggest going a good 50 feet away from your campsite just in case there's still food debris or whatever in this. Dig a hole and pour the water in the hole and bury it. That way it doesn't attract any kind of wildlife. Now if you're leaving, good to multi-purpose this water and pour it on that fire. Now my fire went out last night, but it's still kind of warm. Yeah, it's still a little warm, so do the responsible thing and make sure that fire is out before you leave. Yeah, you can see, you hear that steam. Now by looking at it, it's really easy to think that the fire's completely out, but it's really important to be responsible when you're out in the woods. To leave no trace and make sure that the fire is completely out before you go. So here's a real quick tip on these Lucy lights, the inflatable lights. These things are pretty awesome if you don't have one. They're inflatable, so you don't actually have to put your mouth on this and inflate it. The little trick is you squeeze the end and pull it. It'll actually inflate itself. So these things are pretty great. Completely solar. Another great item that I use on kayak camping. Since it is inflatable, it'll float. I attach to the front of the kayak and let it charge. Then if I need to actually inflate it, I just set it up front, put a little strap around it. I'm not worried about falling off because it'll float and I'll be able to get it. So appreciate you guys watching. Like and subscribe. Share the video. That always helps. Appreciate all the support on the channel, and I love the comments. Everybody's been really nice for the most part. And to the individual who suggested this video, I wasn't given the permission to use your name, but you know who you are, and I appreciate the idea. Alright, take it easy guys. Take care.